Hey everyone, this is Chrysanthi from Happy Habitats, California, and today we are going to be looking at what it means for a species to be threatened, endangered, or extinct. The materials you're going to need for this lesson are the list of endangered animals, the II passage, the Endangered Animal Project information sheet, the poster pieces, a large 12 by 18 piece of construction paper, some scissors, a glue stick, a pen or a pencil, and some colored pencils. The vocabulary you will need to know for this lesson is nocturnal, which means active at night. Extinction, when no more individuals of a certain animal or plant species are alive. There are no organisms left. Dinosaurs all faced extinction millions of years ago. Endangered species, a species that is at serious risk of extinction. There are very few organisms left. The hawksbill sea turtle in the picture is an example of an endangered species. And threatened species, a species that may become endangered in the near future. There are not many organisms left. The Snare's penguin is an example of a threatened species. In an earlier lesson, we had talked about an organism's 4 basic needs. It is important to understand that if an animal or plant does not have its basic needs met, it might not survive. If lots of organisms from the same species do not have their basic needs met, the species could become threatened, endangered, or extinct. An individual organism does not become threatened, endangered, or extinct, but the entire species might become threatened, endangered, or extinct. I've sure used the words threatened, endangered, and extinct a lot. So let's go a bit more in depth about what they mean. A threatened species is not endangered yet, but there are not many left. Examples of threatened species are the African elephant, the great white shark, the hippopotamus, the big-eye tuna, and the polar bear. There are others, but I just named a few. These creatures are not yet endangered, but they might become endangered soon. Some species, like the giant panda, were endangered, but scientists helped to save them. Now, there are not many left, but more than before. They went from endangered to only threatened. An endangered species is close to being extinct. There are very few left, and scientists have to work very hard to keep them from going extinct. Examples of endangered species are the mountain gorilla, stellar sea lions, tigers, the blue whale, and the orangutan. There are lots of endangered species, some that are super endangered or critically endangered, like the northern white rhino. There are only 2 northern white rhinos left in the entire world. If we don't do something soon, the northern white rhino is going to become extinct. If a species is extinct, there are no more of that species left in the entire world. That species no longer exists. Some examples of extinct species are the dodo bird, the Tasmanian tiger, the golden toad, the passenger pigeon, and dinosaurs. Species go extinct for lots of reasons. Sometimes people hunt an animal so much there isn't any left. Sometimes an animal's habitat is destroyed and it has nowhere to live. Sometimes, like with the dinosaurs, a disaster happens. Lots of scientists believe that a giant asteroid or meteor fell from space and changed the environment that the dinosaurs lived in. After the asteroid, they couldn't survive anymore, and all of them died out. To learn a little bit more about endangered species, we are going to be doing a little research project. So I have created a list of endangered animals that have information on the National Geographic Kids website. All of these animals are endangered, which means that there are very few of them left in the world. If you want to do your project on an animal that you know is endangered and that you can find some good information on, you can do that too. For the project, you are going to read the information on one of these species, fill out an information sheet that will help you find the information you need, and then create a poster with the facts you learned. Before you start, I'm going to show you an example. Of the list, I've picked out the ii, an interesting looking mammal that lives in Madagascar. We're going to do the close reading of the passage together, then you can follow along when I fill out the information sheet and complete the poster. The first thing I'm going to do is go to the list of all of the endangered animals that are featured on the National Geographic Kids website. When you get to this page, you're going to pick the animal you want to do your report on. Your teacher might also assign you an animal to do. We are going to do our example on the ii. Because it's the example, it's not on the list, but all of the other ones are. Then I'm going to click on the link that takes me to the National Geographic Kids website. So now I'm going to go to Mammals because the ii is a mammal. Just going to scroll down until I see it right there. So I'm going to click on the picture of my animal, and it's going to take me to a page with lots of information about my endangered animal. So once you get to this page, you might want to print out the information so that you can read through it and highlight it with the information that you need. Before you print it out though, you might want to go up to here. It says View Slideshow. And we'll show you some pretty cool pictures of your animal and maybe some information about where it lives. So this is just some good visual information. It's probably not going to show up when you print it, but it's good to look at. So, since we are reading the passage about the ii together, now would be a good time to get out your passage. So I'm actually going to go over to this page right here. If you could all get out this worksheet that has information about the ii. So we are going to be doing the close reading part together. So what we're going to do is we're going to read through all of the information once without stopping. And then the second time, we're going to read it again and highlight any information that we might need to know to fill out our information sheet. Before we start reading though, let's look at all the information we need to fill out our information sheet so that we can keep an eye out for it when we're reading. So, Endangered Animal Project Information Sheet. Fill in information about your animal, its 5 basic needs, and 2 interesting facts about it. So my animal is called you're going to put the name of your animal, where it's found, my animal is found in, so that could be the name of the type of environment or the specific place. Now the type of animal. So that's reptile, fish, bird, mammal, or insect. That could also be amphibian, which isn't here, but it is one of the types. Now you're going to describe your animal's body parts, like if it has a long trunk, short legs, 1 fin, a flat tail. Next, what your animal eats. You're going to put that in this box here. You're also going to say what shelter your animal lives in. That's going to go in this box here. One of our last questions is, how does your animal move around? So you can just write a quick sentence right here. And then these last two boxes are two interesting facts. So these can be any other information that we think is unique or cool about our creature. We are just going to list that here. So now that we know information that's going to be asked on our information sheet, let's read through the passage once without stopping. I by Andrea Selin. Crouching on a tree branch, a hairy animal that looks like a cross between a raccoon and a rat lifts a long finger and taps on the trunk. It's not politely knocking to see who's home. Instead, it's trying to locate hollow spots beneath the bark where insects live. It can tell that it's found a cavity by the sound of the tapping. Once it detects a hollow, the animal rips away the bark with its teeth and gobbles up the bugs. This curious creature is known as an eye. So its type is a mammal. Its diet is an omnivore, which means that it eats both plants and meat. Its average lifespan in the wild is 20 years. Its size from head to body is 14 to 17 inches, and with tail it's 22 to 24 inches, and its weight is 4 pounds. Freaky fingers. Eyes can be found only in the forests of Madagascar, an island nation off the coast of Africa. The animals rarely descend from their treetop digs to the forest floor. Only active at night, they spend the day snoozing on branches in nests made of leaves. When darkness falls, the creatures forage for food in the treetops. In addition to bugs, eyes feast on fruit, such as mango, scooping pulp from the juicy meal with their bony fingers. Without its distinct digits, snagging grub would be much harder for the eye. And the animal's fingers aren't the only funny feature that helps it survive in the wild. Big yellow eyes let it see in the dark. Giant, sensitive ears help the animal detect prey. And a long, bushy tail allows the eye to balance as it scampers along tree branches. It's all relative. The eye's odd traits may be useful to the animal, but they've also caused confusion. The animal's rat-like teeth and squirrel-like tail led scientists to first assume that it was a rodent. But these animals are actually primates, the same group of species that humans belong to. With its weird looks and oddball behavior, the eye is one relative with a serious range of strange. So now that we've read through it once, let's read through it again, and this time, highlight important information that we might need to know for our information sheet. I'm just going to get out my highlight. Alrighty. Eye. Crouching on a tree branch, a hairy animal. So hairy animal might be some important information that we could use for our physical characteristics box. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight that. A hairy animal that looks like a cross between a raccoon and a rat lifts a long finger and taps on the trunk. I think I'm also going to highlight long finger right here, because this is another physical characteristic that we can use. Anything else in this sentence? I don't think so. So let's keep going. It's not politely knocking to see who's home. Instead, It's trying to locate hollow spots beneath the bark where insects live. It can tell that it's found a cavity by the sound of the tapping. Once it detects a hollow, the animal rips away the bark with its teeth and gobbles up the bugs. Ooh, right here it says that it gobbles up the bugs. So I'm going to highlight this because this is some important information about the aye-aye's diet, or what it eats. This curious creature is known as an aye-aye. Its type is mammals. Ooh, this is important information to know. So since I can't really highlight it, I'm going to just underline it right here because my highlighter doesn't really work on pictures, but I would go ahead and highlight this on your part. Its diet is an omnivore. Its average lifespan in the wild is 20 years. Its size from head and body is 14 to 17 inches, and with the tail it's 22 to 24 inches, and its weight is 4 pounds. Freaky fingers. Aye-ayes can only be found in the forests of Madagascar, an island nation off the coast of Africa. So I'm going to highlight forests of Madagascar because that tells us some important information about where the aye-aye lives, which was something that was asked on our information sheet. The animals rarely descend from their treetop digs to the forest floor. Ooh, I think I'm going to highlight treetop here, because this tells us a little bit about the shelter of these animals, that they stay up in the treetops. Only active at night, they spend the day snoozing on branches in nests made of leaves. So although it doesn't really ask us anything about this, I'm going to count this as one of my interesting facts. Just looking ahead, I'm going to highlight only active at night. Now, if you remember from our vocabulary words, a creature that is only active at night is called nocturnal. So I'm just going to highlight this information so I can come back to it later when I'm writing my interesting facts. When darkness falls, I almost forgot. There's another important piece of information in the sentence that I forgot to highlight. I'm also going to highlight branches in nests made of leaves. Because just like the treetops, this is some important information about the shelter of the aye-aye. When darkness falls, the creatures forage for food in the treetops. In addition to bugs, aye-ayes feast on fruit, such as mango, scooping pulp from the juicy meal with their bony fingers. Now, there are two different things that I want to highlight in this sentence. One of them has to do with diet, and the other has to do with physical characteristics. So first, I'm going to highlight aye-ayes feast on fruit such as mango. That's some important information about the aye-aye's diet. The next thing I'm going to highlight are bony fingers. That's some cool information about an aye-aye's physical characteristics that's important for us to know. Let's keep going. Without its distinct digits, snacking grub would be much harder for the aye-aye. And the animal's fingers aren't the only funny feature that helps it survive in the wild. Big yellow eyes let it see in the dark. And this is a cool little adaptation that I'm going to highlight, that it has these big yellow eyes. That's also a physical characteristic that we can put in the physical characteristic box. Giant sensitive ears help the animal detect prey. And that's some other important information that we can put in our physical characteristic box about its giant sensitive ears. and a long, bushy tail allows the eye to balance as it scampers along tree branches. There is another physical characteristic in here about its tail. This is a very descriptive paragraph. There's also some information that I'm going to highlight here that says it scampers along tree branches. Now, this information tells us a little bit about how it moves. Even though scampers isn't a very specific word, it gives us a good idea. Now we're on our last paragraph. It's all relative. The eye's odd traits may be useful to the animal, but they've also caused confusion. The animal's rat-like teeth and squirrel-like tail led scientists to first assume that it was a rodent. There is a lot of information here that I'm going to highlight. I'm going to highlight about its rat-like teeth and squirrel-like tail, because those are some physical characteristics. I'm also going to highlight that scientists first assumed that it was a rodent. This is some crazy information that I might put in my interesting facts box. Let's keep going. But these animals are actually primates, the same group of species that humans belong to. So this sort of goes with my first part about it being a rodent, or scientists thinking it was a rodent, but it's actually a primate. So I'm just going to highlight that sentence there. All right, we're on to our last sentence. With its weird looks and oddball behavior, the eye is one relative with a serious range of strange. Highlighted some important information. I'm going to pull up the information sheet again, and this time we are going to use the information on our highlighted eye passage so that we can fill out our information sheet. You do not have to fill this out with me. All you really need to do is pay attention and follow along. Just going to say it again, you don't have to fill this out with me. Just pay attention to how I'm doing it so that when you do the same thing with your own animal that's not the eye, you know how to do it. So the first thing that we're always going to do is we're always going to put our name at the top. So I'm going to put my name right there. Let's read the directions. Endangered Animal Project Information Sheet. Fill in information about your animal, its 5 basic needs, and 2 interesting facts about it. So, first question, zoom in, is asking what our animal is called. My animal is called the eye. So I'm going to go ahead and write that in here. Next, we need to name the type of environment or specific place our animal is found. We highlighted right here that it lives in the forests of Madagascar. So I'm going to write here, my animal is found in the forests of Madagascar. The next one is asking the type of animal. So I'm going to go ahead and write in mammal, because right here it says type, mammals. So let me add my box. I'm going to write mammal. The next box under this asks us to describe our animal's body parts, or its physical characteristics. This could be a long trunk, short legs, one fin, flat tail, or something of the sort. There are a lot of descriptive words throughout our passage that tell us what the eye looks like. It's a hairy animal, has long fingers, his bony fingers, big yellow eyes, giant sensitive ears, a long bushy tail. It has teeth that look like that of a rat and a squirrel-like tail. So that's a lot of information. So I'm going to do my best to sort of group that all together. And I am going to, let me get my box to be the right size. I'm going to write the ii is a hairy animal that has long, bony fingers. It has big yellow eyes, giant sensitive ears, and rat-like teeth. The ii also has a long, bushy tail like a squirrel. So those were 3 good sentences that sort of described the body parts of the ii. So let's move on to the next page of our information sheet. On the next page, we are going to be asked what our animal eats. Up at the top of the passage, right here, we were told that it gobbles up bugs. And then down here, we were told that it feasts on fruit, such as a mango. So in this box, it says, my animal eats. I'm going to write insects and some fruits, like mangoes. I'm going to shrink my box right there. Oops. There we go. Okay. So the next box right here asks us another question about our animal's basic needs. It's shelter. So in our passage, we highlighted a part. Oh, there it is. Where is it? Right here. That talks about how it lives in the treetops and how it snoozes on branches in nests made of leaves. So that's some interesting information about the shelter of the ii. So in this box, I'm going to write, my animal lives in nests made of leaves on the branches of trees. Oh no, that cut off. It sort of rhymes if you think about it. Trees and leaves. Not really, sort of. So under here, we are also asked to write a sentence about how our animal moves. We need to answer the question, how does your animal move around? This one is going to be in a complete sentence. And let's make sure that we use part of the sentence in our answer, or part of the question in our answer. So from the passage, we know that the ii scampers along tree branches. So I'm going to go back here, and scamper is sort of a word like climb. So instead of the word scamper, I think I'm going to use the word climb. So I'm going to write ii's move by climbing through the treetops. Looking good. So the last 2 boxes we need to fill out are 2 interesting facts about our animal. The interesting facts about your animal can be anything you want them to be. Might be a good idea for them to be something you didn't already know about your animal, something surprising, or something that is unique to your animal. So the first interesting fact I'm going to write about the ii has to do with this part that we highlighted right here, that they're only active at night. So we know from our vocabulary words that that means that the ii is a nocturnal animal. Nocturnal animals are awake at night and sleep during the day. So I think my first interesting fact about the ii is going to be, ii's are nocturnal animals. This means they are awake at night and asleep during the day. So this is some surprising, cool, interesting information about the eye. So we need to fill out one more interesting fact. So the last interesting fact I'm going to write about is the last thing I highlighted. It says that scientists first assumed that the eye was a rodent, but they are actually primates. That is some pretty cool information. So I'm going to go back to my information sheet, grab out another little text box, and I'm going to write, scientists first thought that eyes were rodents. Later, scientists discovered they were actually primates. Awesome job! We filled out our information sheet. I am going to show you what you're going to do with all of this awesome information that you collected. So I'm going to pull up the sheet with all of our cool poster pieces. We're 3 pages to our poster piece document. And you are going to write the information from the information sheet onto the poster pieces using complete sentences. After you finish that, you can draw a picture of your animal in the box that says picture at the bottom right here. So I've already finished my poster, but I am going to walk you through it to give you a good idea of what your poster is going to look like. So at the top, I have written the name of the animal, which is the eye, in big letters. I also added a little decoration, and you can do the same. Underneath that, I have the type of animal, which is a mammal. So I have the word mammal written right there. Next, I have a picture of the animal, the eye that I drew, and you are going to draw a picture of your animal in the box provided that says picture at the bottom. Next, I have how the animal moves. I wrote in a complete sentence, eyes move by climbing through the treetops. And then under here, I have my 2 interesting facts. Interesting fact 1 says, eyes are nocturnal animals. This means they are awake at night and are asleep during the day. My second interesting fact says, scientists first thought that eyes were rodents. Later, scientists discovered they were actually primates. On the sides, I have my 4 boxes. Animals habitat. The eye lives in the forests of Madagascar. Physical characteristics. Eyes are hairy animals that have long bony fingers. It has big yellow eyes, giant sensitive ears, and rat-like teeth. Eyes also have long bushy tails like squirrels. On the other side, I have my animal's diet. Eyes eat insects and some fruits like mangoes. My last box is the animal's shelter. Eyes live in nests made of leaves in the branches of trees. I also wrote my name at the bottom, which is very important. So this is how I organized my poster, and you can really organize it any way you want that makes the most sense to you. I hope you learned a lot about threatened, endangered, and extinct species in this Happy Habitats California lesson. I can't wait to keep learning with you.